Chapter 18 of Masters of the Vortex by E. E. Smith. Chapter 18, Cahuita. On the planet Cahuita, unreckonable years before this story opens, an entity brooded. This entity, Midori by symbol, was not even vaguely manlike. In fact, he, the third-person singular pronoun masculine, is used very loosely indeed, but since it is somewhat better than either it or she, it will have to do. Was not even vaguely corporeal or substantial. Man's earliest ancestor, it is believed, came into being through the interaction of energy and matter in the waters of the infant seas of Earth. The first Cahuitans, however, originated in the unimaginably violent, raw, crude energy flare of an atomic explosion. This explosion did not take place on Tellus, nor in any time known to Tellurian history. The place of occurrence was a planet in the spiral arm of the galaxy, across the tremendous gulf of empty space which we now call Rift 240. The time, as has been said, was in the unthinkably remote past. Cahuitans are not, strictly speaking, immortal, but as far as mankind is concerned, and except for exceedingly peculiar violences, they might as well be. Midori brooded. His problem was old. It had probably been considered academically by every Cahuitan then alive, but only academically, and no Cahuitan had ever solved it, for the philosophy of the race had always been, and still is, the simple one of least action. No Cahuitan ever did any job until it became necessary, but conversely, once any job was done, it was done as nearly as possible for all time to come. Midori was the first Cahuitan to be compelled, by one of the basic urges of life, to deal with the problem as a concrete, not an abstract thing. The problem was therefore his alone. His world, the only planet of its sun, was old. The last atoms of its fissionables had been fissioned. The last atoms of its fusibles had been fused. No more fires could be kindled. The Cahuitans in general did not care. For the adolescents, the time of need for a source of high-level quanta had not yet come. For those already fulfilled, it had passed. While entirely gaseous, the planet would stay comfortably warm for a long time. Its energies, with the outpourings of its parent sun, would feed billions of people instead of the mere hundreds of thousands comprising its present population. Jobs, businesses, commerce, and industry went on as usual, unaffected. But Midori was affected, basically fundamentally affected. The time had come when he should progress into completion, and without a new fire the change was impossible. For a time which to a human race would have been fantastically long, Midori brooded, considering every aspect of the problem, then stirred himself to action. Converting a tiny portion of his non-material being into 3 filaments of energy, he constructed a working platform by attaching the ends of these 3 filaments to the cores of 3 widely separated suns. Thus assured of orientation, he launched into space a probing needle of pure force, a needle which, propagated in and through the sub-ether, covered parsecs of distances in microseconds of time. And thus for days, years, what might have been centuries and millennia, as we of Tellus know time, he searched, and finally he found. Pulling in all his extensions, he shot a tight beam to a fellow being, Latosa by symbol, and tuned his mind precisely to hers being perhaps a trifle better than either his or its. For some little time you two have felt the need of fulfillment, he informed his proposed complement, in level, passionless thought. You and I match well, there being no duplications, no incompatibles, no antagonistics in our 12 basics. Our fulfillment, metasalutary, and our products, Medora and Latusi, would all 3 be super primes. Yes. What a fright of rebellion against fate was carried by that monosyllable. But why discuss it? Why reach for the unattainable? From now on we die. We all die. Unfulfilled and without product. All life in this universe, in this galaxy at least, ends with us, now, here. I hope not. I think not. There are many solar systems. To what end? Latosa broke in, her thought a sneer. Can you kindle utterly frigid fuel? Can you work in a sun's core? Or can you, perhaps, take a piece of star core stuff through empty space to a cold planet, and, the thought changed in tone, became what would have been on Earth a schoolgirl's squeal of rapture. You can! Or you wouldn't have brought up such a harrowing subject. You really can! Not that exactly, but something just as good. I found sparks and kindling on a cold, solid planet. No, the thought was ecstasy. You didn't! I did. Whenever you're ready, we'll go. I've been ready for cycles. The two beings linked themselves together in some fashion unknowable to man, and shot away through the airless, heatless void. Heatless, but by no means devoid of energy. The travelers could draw sustenance enough for their ordinary needs from the cosmic radiation pervading all space. Across Rift 240 they flew, and on through interstellar space. They reached our solar system. On the third planet, our Earth, they found several atomic power plants. There were no loose atomic vortices then. "Hold on! Wait!" Latosa exclaimed, and the strangely linked pair stopped just short of the glowing bit of warmth, the ragingly incandescent, furiously radiating reactor, in the heart of one of Earth's largest generating stations, which was its goal. "There's something funny about this. How could there possibly be even one little spark like this, to say nothing of so many, on such an utterly frigid planet, unless some intelligent being started it and is maintaining it for some purpose? There must be intelligence on this planet, and we must be intruding shamefully. Have you scanned? Carefully?" "I have scanned. Carefully, completely, not only on this planet's surface, but throughout its depths. I have scanned, area by area and volume by volume, this sun and its every planet, satellite, and asteroid. There is no intelligence here. More, there is no sign whatever of any kind of life, however rudimentary, latent, or nascent. I have been able to find nothing whatever to modify our conclusion of long and long ago that we are the only life, intelligent or otherwise, in existence. Scan for yourself." Latosa scanned. She scanned the sun, the planets, the moons and moonlets, the asteroids down to grains of sand and particles of dust. Still unsatisfied, she scanned all neighboring solar systems, from Centralia to Salvador. Then, and only then, did she accept Midori's almost unacceptable conclusion that these providential sparks were in fact accidental, and were in fact, by some process as yet unknown to Cahuitan science, self-balancing and self-sustaining. Midori and Latosa, woven into a fantastically intricate and complex sphere of ultramicroscopic filaments, flashed into the heart of the reactor, which thereupon went instantaneously and enthusiastically out of control. And from the pleasant warmth of the incubator womb, to us of Earth the ravening fury of the first loose atomic vortex, there emerged the fulfillment mid-oscillatory. This entity, grave and complete and serene as an adult Cahuitan should be, wafted itself, there's no question as to which pronoun is to be used here, sedately back to its home planet. And in the pleasant warmth of that same incubator womb, the two products, Medora and Latusi, began very slowly to gestate. Joan and Storm, minds in fusion, set out to regions never before explored by man. Downward first, 1 cycle per second, 1 per minute, 1 per hour, per day, per year, per century. Hold everything, Storm. You're getting out beyond my depth. Anyway, what use are they in what we're after? None at all that I can see, but it's new knowledge. Nobody ever dreamed, correction please, nobody ever published anything about it, or I'd have heard of it. Maybe the Fives know all about it, though. I'll check with them first chance I get. QX will jump up to the radio band. There wouldn't be any radio waves out here, and you couldn't understand the language if there were. How do you know? We'll go where there are some and find out. Maybe we can understand any kind of language now. Maybe that's one of the natural abilities of a Type 3-6 fusion. Who knows? In an instant they were receiving a shortwave broadcast at the heaviside layer of a distant planet. They could receive it, could delouse it, could separate signal from carrier wave, could read the information, but they could not understand it. Well, that's a relief, Joan sighed. I was getting more than half afraid that a Type 6 mind would be omniscient. If I'm a 6, you needn't worry. There's altogether too much to know. Where do you want to go from here? Let's look at the infrared and the ultraviolet. I've often wondered what colors they would be. The fusion looked and saw things that made both participants gasp. That is, they did not really see either. None of the 6 ordinary senses of perception, sight, hearing, taste, smell, or touch were involved. Or rather, perhaps all of them were involved, or merged with, or into some other, brand new sense possessed only by high-type minds in full action. As a semanticist, Joan, could you write a paper on that? That would make any kind of sense, I mean? I'll say I can't. Joan breathed. Especially as a semanticist, I can't. No words, no symbology in any language. Weren't they beautiful, Storm? And wonderful, and awful. All of that. I'd like to write it up or make a treatise of it or something, but of course we can't. What next? Shall we flirt a bit with the cosmics and ultras, or had we better jump right into the channels of thought? Thought, by all means. The more practice we get, the better. And they'd be on a terrifically high band, don't you think? Bound to be. The logical conclusion of this whole fantastically cockeyed setup is that they've simply never even suspected that we exist, any more than we have that they do. Would the bodies, if I can call them that, radiate of themselves or just thoughts? Not of themselves, I don't think, no. An entity of pure energy would have to be held together by forces of magnitudes we can't even guess at, much too intense to permit bodily radiation. Something like the binding energies of particles, I imagine, but different and very probably even more so. The fusion leaped then to the bands of thought. It sought out and seized the thoughts of various of the ship's personnel, gripping, molding, working, analyzing. Joan and Cloud were not reading minds now at all. They were studying the fundamental mechanisms of the thoughts themselves, how they were generated, upon what, if anything, they were heterodyned, how they were transmitted, and above all, exactly how they were received and exactly how they were converted from pure thought, couched at least in part in the symbols of language, into usefully assimilable information. And such was the power of that fusion, it succeeded. Then up and up and up the scale of thought the fused minds went, seeking, finding, mastering, and up and up and up into regions where no thoughts at all were to be found, and up and up and up. "Stop it! Let me go! I'm burning out!" Joan shrieked aloud. "My God, Storm! Is there no limit at all to your ceiling?" Cloud stopped, loosed her mind. "I'm sorry, chick, but I was just getting nicely organized. We got a long ways to go yet, I'm afraid." "I'm sorry too, Storm. Sorrier than you'll ever know. But I simply can't take it. 3 seconds more of that and I'd have gone stark, raving mad. And when we get to Cahuita, I don't know what I'll do. I may blow up completely." "You may think so, but you won't. You're not the type. And we aren't going to Cahuita, at least not in the flesh. When we hit that band, we'll be there automatically." "Not quite automatically, of course. But we'll be there, yes. I want to stay with you, more than I ever wanted anything in my whole life. And I want to help you. Couldn't we loosen the fusion just a little so that I can pull away when the going gets too rough for me? Just enough to keep away from a burnout, but close enough to see and perhaps to help a little?" "I don't know why not. Sure, like this." He showed her. Again the fusion went up and up and up, and this time it did not stop at Joan's ceiling. She pulled away a little, but not enough so that she could not sense and understand, in a way, what was going on. Cloud, every muscle set and eyes closed tight, sat in a chair, his hands gripping fiercely its arms. Joan lay face down upon a davenport, her face buried in a pillow, her fists tight clenched. And the linked minds, linked now, not fused, went up and up and up. And finally they reached the band upon which a Cahuitan fulfillment was thinking. It would probably be too much to say that the fulfillment was surprised. An adult-fulfilled Cahuitan is so sincere, so sedate, so inherently stable at any possible level of stress, that it is probably impossible for it to feel any such sensation or emotion as surprise, even at the instantaneous unveiling of a whole new universe of thought. It was, however, in a calm, passionless, and scholarly way, interested. Not what could be called intensely interested, perhaps, but really interested, nevertheless. As had been foreseen, the modes of thought of the Cahuitan and the linked Tellurians were different indeed. As has been shown, however, there were some points. The fulfillment could remember the emotions of its component products, even though it could no longer feel them, upon which even such divergent minds as those could find common ground. Also, it must be borne in mind that the Cahuitan was an able and seasoned thinker, trained for many millennia in the art, and that Neal Cloud was a Type 6 mind, the only such mind then to be found in all civilization. Hence, while it would serve no useful purpose here to go into detail as to how it was accomplished, a working understanding was at last attained. Cloud came to understand, as well as any being of material substance ever could, the beings of pure energy. The Cahuitan learned and broadcast that intelligent life could and did exist in intimate association with ultimately frigid matter. While the probability was small that there would ever be any considerable amount of fruitful intercourse between the two kinds of life, some live and let live arrangement should be and would be worked out. There were thousands, yes, millions of planets, absolutely useless to anybody or anything known to man, planets harboring no life of any kind. The patrol would be glad to set up, on any desired number of these barren planets, as many atomic power plants as the Cahuitans wanted, with controls set either to let go in an hour or to maintain stability for 25,000 galactic standard years. The Cahuitans would immediately extinguish all vortices not containing products, and would move all living products to the new planets as soon as the promised incubators were ready. Products indeed! They're babies, Joan insisted, when Cloud stepped the information down to her level. And how can they possibly move them? Easily enough, the fulfillment told Cloud. Blankets of force will retain the warmth necessary for such short trips, provided each new incubator is waiting warm and ready. I see, but there's one question I want to ask for myself. And Cloud went on to explain about the unbelievably huge sphere that crossed civilization's vast expanse of space. What's the reason for it? To save time and effort. The product Maduri devoted much of both to the evaluation of a sufficiently productive, aesthetically satisfying, and mathematically correct construction. It would not be logical to waste time and labor in seeking a variant or an alternate, especially since Maduri's work showed, almost conclusively, that his was in fact the most symmetrical construction possible. Now symmetry to us is what you might, perhaps, call a ruling passion in one of your own races. Symmetry? The first 12 vortices were symmetrical, of course, but from there on, nothing. Ah! That is due to the differences between our thinkings, particularly in our mathematical and philosophical thinkings. The circle, the sphere, the square, the cube, all such elementary forms, are common to both, but the likenesses are few. The differences are many, so many that it will require several thousands of your galactic standard years for certain of my fellows and me to tabulate them and to make whatever may be possible of reconciliation. Well, thanks. One more question. Maybe I shouldn't ask it, but this that we have laid out is a wide-reaching and extremely important program. Are you sure that you are able to speak for all the Cahuitans who will be affected? I am sure. Since we are a logical race, we all think alike, logically. On the other hand, your race does not seem to me at the moment to be at all a logical one. Can you speak for it? In this matter I can, and you in my mind will know that I can. And in this case Cloud could indeed speak for the patrol. Philip Strong, after one glance in Cloud's mind, would issue the necessary orders himself, and would explain later, to anyone capable of accepting the true explanation. Very well. We will destroy the empty incubators at once, and we'll go ahead with the rest of the project whenever you're ready." The Cahuitan broke contact and vanished. In the ship, Cloud got up. So did Joan. Without exchanging a word or a thought, they went hungrily into each other's arms. After a time, and still keeping one arm around his Joan, Cloud reached out and punched a button on his intercom. "Captain Ross? Ross speaking." "Cloud, mission accomplished. Return to Tellus, please, at full touring blast." "Very well, sir." And Storm Cloud, Vortex Blaster, was out of a job. End of chapter 18. Read by Harley James. End of Masters of the Vortex by E. E. Smith.